Corner Brook, Newfoundland, Canada, and Gros Morne National Park. I arrived in Corner Brook on an oceanic cruise, which had previous port stops in Scotland, Faroe Islands, Iceland, and Greenland. I had registered for a full-day excursion to Gros Morne National Park, which is in Newfoundland. The excursion was billed as a picturesque drive to the park, which is a World Heritage Site. I was not disappointed. First, let me show you a map of Newfoundland and Labrador. I was a little confused by the double name, so let me explain. Until 1949, Newfoundland and Labrador were a dominion of the British Empire. It is the most recent province to join Canada. In 2001, the name Newfoundland was constitutionally changed to Newfoundland and Labrador. There is the island of Newfoundland and then the continental land portion of Labrador. As is typical on a bus tour, the guide shared information on the area. Corner Brook's main industries are a pulp paper mill, fishing, and healthcare. Our first stop in Gros Morne National Park was at the Visitor Center, which was one of the nicest visitor centers I have enjoyed. It wasn't huge, but was beautifully done with a small museum and gift shop. It was also surrounded by trees and mountains. Our next stop was the Jenniex House, which is a small two-story building that is located at the Norris Point lookout. The dwelling is now a museum, but was formerly a home that housed a family of 14 children. It is so small you have a hard time imagining so many people living in it. It was certainly a step back in time. The best part of the visit to the house, though, was the spectacular view from the deck, which looks down to the fjord. I jumped up on a bench to get an even better view of the glacial mountains and water. As I was stepping up on the bench, I noticed these flowering plants. I learned later that they are wild Newfoundland roses. Its fruit is called rose hips and is used to make jam, which you could find in many of the souvenir shops in the area. We then headed to the shores of Norris Point. The bus parked by the Bonny Bay Marine Station, which had an interesting display of whales vertebrae. We were given about 20 minutes to explore the area by the shore. I took a short walk to the end of a road where I could get nice views of the fjord. The fjord splits into two arms, and Norris Point juts out between the two. From there I had a good view of the Tablelands, which are a unique geological formation. The red and orange rock formations that make up the Tablelands were once part of the Earth's mantle, deep beneath the planet's crust. They were forced to the surface millions of years ago, creating a barren landscape that is unlike anything else in Gros Morne National Park. The population in Labrador and Newfoundland is only 500,000 people, and 2/3 of them live in St. John's, so the area we were traveling through was sparsely populated. On our way to lunch, we stopped by the side of the road for a quick picture of Rocky Harbour. Very pretty with the reeds in the foreground and the glacial mountains behind. We then drove to the town of Rocky Harbour, where we had a casual and tasty meal at a local restaurant. Afterwards, I wandered the town. It is a small town with sporadic houses lining the scenic shore. There was a pretty little creek that fed into the water. Our next stop was the Lobster Cove Head Lighthouse, which is a museum and lighthouse that is perched high above the fjord. It is known as the perfect spot to enjoy sunsets and an ideal place for photographers who are looking to capture the views, which were beautiful. There were numerous trails that set off in many directions from the lighthouse, so it is a good place for hikers too. This was my favorite area in Gros Morne National Park, and a place I would recommend to travelers, especially those that would enjoy a hike. Our return to the dock was through beautiful green mountains and wetlands. We drove by the side of Deer Lake. Evidently, there are no deer here, but the first Europeans that arrived thought the local caribou were deer, so called it Deer Lake. It is a very long glacial lake that freezes over in winter. It was a lovely ride following the lake. Here are a few images of the return trip. I was happy with this excursion, which was run by Wildland Tours. The guide was fun and informative, and I enjoyed all our stops. Gros Morne is a beautiful place, and we were blessed with excellent weather that day. I have posted additional videos on my 30-day land and cruise journey to Scotland, Iceland, Greenland, Canada, and more, which I have listed in the description below. If you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments section, and please subscribe to follow other destinations on this trip. For senior and solo travelers, check out two new resources, the Senior Solo Travel website and the Facebook forum, where you can interact with other travelers. I've included links to both in the description. And if you would like to follow my senior and solo travel journeys, please like and subscribe. Next stop, St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada.